in a different venue. I'm visiting my parents for the week, so we're at my parents' house. So I think if I remember correctly, because I was thinking about that, and I'm pretty sure I got our little what we stopped at 2 weeks ago. So we were in the middle of our time signs.
Hmm.
We did the days of the week, and then I think that's where we had stopped. I don't think we did day, week, month, or year. So we'll do those. And then after we finish the time signs, excuse me, I believe we'll move on to like our next one, which would be family signs, if I'm correct. I may be
Hmm.
wrong.
Well, I did put in WH question words because I thought we could at least talk about like how many, what number, whatever.
Yeah, we can definitely do that because I was sitting there and I was thinking it was family, but then I was also like, do we do WH question words first?
I mean,
I
I think it makes sense to time and family together and then end
Mhm.
with the WH because then you can say, you can talk about, you
You
can
could
put
talk
it
about your
together.
spring break. You could talk
Yeah.
about your spring break.
You can.
You could be like, last week I did blah 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 with my mom, dad, sister, brother, husband, wife. You can start listing your events of this week. Even if you didn't do anything, you could still talk about your week. Okay, perfect. So the first sign we're gonna do, let's see, because we're gonna start with our days or seconds, minutes, hour, days, week, month, year. And then we'll move on to our how you would do your time frame for next week, last week, the next and last signs. Okay? So the first one for second. Second is one that I don't typically actually see often. You know how when we talk in English, we typically will say, oh, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, that sort of thing. I've noticed in ASL it's more 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. That is something I see more common. So for second, this actual sign for it is you're gonna have your non-dominant palm up like this. And this is gonna be the face of your clock, basically. Your dominant is gonna be a pointer finger. You're gonna put it here like this. And then for second, it's very, very light. Very light. It's not big, it's just a little. Second, second, second. So second. Very, very tiny. Okay. Then for minute, there are two ways you can do it. One of them is going to be in the same position that we did second, but now you're going to go minute, 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 minute. So it's slightly bigger. All right. The other one is going to be two pointer fingers. You're going to have your non-dominant pointing and touching the base of your dominant, and you go minute, minute, minute. This one is more for saying like you have 5 minutes or you have 3 minutes left, sort of that kind of concept. And the cool thing with this one is you can add the time to it. So like if you're saying 5 minutes, we're leaving in 5 minutes, we have 5 minutes. It took 5 minutes, that sort of thing. You can just add the number onto that slight little shake motion. Okay. Then we have hour. Hour. We're gonna come back again to this face with our non-dominant and our dominant. And this time, what you're going to do with your dominant pointer finger is you're going to go in a circle. Hour, 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 hour. Okay. And this is another one that you can also add your time, your numbers to. So if you're talking about 2 hours, 3 hours, you can do 2 hours, 3 hours. You can add your number onto it. So whichever, I know you're like, wait a minute, wait, let me get my numbers. The three and the six are some of the biggest struggles, I think. But like once you transition from this to this, you can't go back. Like I genuinely have like a confidence because I can't ever see this as a three anymore. And when I see people who do this for a three, I have to like subconsciously remind myself, that's a three for them. That's not a six because I will think six. And I caught myself recently having an issue where we were doing some kind of warm-up activity and we couldn't talk. And it wasn't related to work or anything. It was just a different group. It was like a friend group party or some kind of game we were playing. And so you had to like get in order based on like a certain like your birthday number or something like that. And someone did to this. I know it looks, well, it was more like this. Two and then this. I thought my first instinct was, oh, 2-6. Okay, same day, got it, 26. So I said, yeah, you, me, same. No, 23. But my brain did not register that. And so I was like, well, we'll stand next to each other. And then we were like, this is great. Until then, it like came out that like our actual dates, and they were like, oh no, that was a 3. And I had to, I totally pulled the, I'm so sorry. ASL is, this is a 6. Like I was being one of those like people who was like, ah, sorry, I did not mean to mess up, but like this is technically a 6. I'm so notorious for that. But yeah, so like I still struggle with remembering that this can still look like a 3 to people. So, anyways, I had to have that little fun tidbit because I just think it's always funny with this. So, again, hour is you're going to start in that same position and you go in a circular motion. The visual I have with this one is think about the shorthand. No, not shorthand, minute hand, my bad. Goes all the way around a clock, and that's how an hour is counted on a clock. So I think it has to, I think about like how that minute has to go in a full circle to get to that hour. So that's my visual with that. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is the sign for day, all right? So for day, you're going to have your non-dominant arm across. You can have your hand in a fist or you can have it flat. Either way, it's not too really picky on it. I do typically have mine open just to rest my arm, but even like a fist like this is not going to change it. You're going to have your dominant in a pointer finger in like a D shape, basically. And you're going to go down. Day, day, day. Okay. And then let's see. I am going to add here just because I think that's a helpful one. All day. If you were talking about something being all day, you're going to have that same setup, but instead of having a pointer finger, you have an open hand, just that 5 kind of shape, and you go all day, all day, all day. Okay. Then we have week. So for week, you're going to have your non-dominant palm up. Your dominant's going to be in that pointer finger. And you're going to start at the base of your palm and you're going to slide across. Week, week. Okay. And then this is another one where you can add your number to also kind of say how many weeks. So 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whichever. Another thing that is nice that I don't always add, and I should say this, is if you repeat it like this, when you just go over and over again, this means weekly. So when you're talking about something being weekly, it happens every week, or if it's every 2 weeks, it's every 2 weeks. So you can add that is the repetitive motion that helps it know that it happens every week or that every 2 weeks or whatever number you say. Okay, let's let's pause here. Let's go back because we've thrown a lot and I want to make sure I don't throw too many and overwhelm y'all in one go. All right, so we had our second. So we had second, the tiny little one, second. We had minute, which was minute, 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 or minute, 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 minute. Okay. Then we had our hour, which was hour, hour, hour. And then we had our day, day. Then we had all day, all day. And then we had week, week, week. Okay. And then obviously weekly, like I said, weekly, weekly. Okay. So the next one for month, what you're going to do is this one is one where I have to kind of explain it because it's not awkward to sign it, it's awkward to describe it, especially through Zoom. So you have 2 pointer fingers. You're going to take your dominant pointer finger and you're going to turn it sideways. So where that, yeah, there you go. And you're going to take your dominant pointer finger and slide it down the back of your non-dominant month. And it goes all the way down kind of to the base of where like your hand goes. So month, month. And once again, this one is another one you still can add that number on. So 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, any of that. And also, this one is another one that you can do the same thing we do with weekly, where you do monthly. Monthly. You can just kind of do that repetitive. It happens monthly, every 2 months, every 3 months, monthly. Okay? For year, for year, you're going to have two fists. You're going to have I typically have my dominant on top. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's just I prefer that one. Like, and what I mean by difference is if you had your right-handed one, right hand on top, either way would work. So what you're going to do is you're going to go with your dominant hand, full circle and come back. Year. And you do typically have this one going forward. Year, year. Okay? Excuse me. Year. All right. And if you wanted to say 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, you would do 3 years. So this one you don't technically would go like 3 years. I mean, 3 years, 4 years. I mean, you could. 3 years. I guess you could. I guess I don't typically do that. I think I do three. But also, like, sometimes those are signs where I just don't notice if I do it until after someone calls me out on it. That's why I had to sit there and think, I was like, have I done that or do I do that? I might have done this before. But it's that same concept with that motion and having that number to tell you with the years. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about next week, last week, next month, last month, next year, last year. Because we did yesterday and tomorrow 2 weeks ago when we started with our time. I remember that one. Okay. So if you remember when we were talking about our time, I said that anything that happens in the future is going to be in front of us. Anything that is present is right here with us. And then anything that's in the past is going to be behind us. That we are still going to follow that same pattern again with our time. So for last week, what you're going to do is you're going to start again the same position as week. You're going to do the same motion like sliding across, but this time when you get to the end, you're going to curl it and point back. Last week, last week, last week, last week, last week. And this one is also another one you can add the number. 3 weeks
Can I
ago.
just say that this is what I love about ASL? You can be so dramatic. Like I love the thought of being like, that was supposed to be last week. Like
Oh my gosh. Yes.
like I'm throwing
Yes.
it behind me.
Trust me, as someone who loves to have attitude with
Your book
like
is
time,
3 weeks overdue.
that I could see as the librarian just being like, your book, it was due 3 weeks ago. With that like little face, like, come on. Okay. So we have our last week. We had our three, whatever number you have weeks ago. Then for next week, there are technically two ways that you can do it. I do recommend this one more so because this is more, I guess, beginner ASL. And this one, I recently learned, not recent. Well, I guess it was recent. I always say it was recently because it was like when we first started this class, it was recently. But now I'm like, well, now it's been about 5 years. It's not recent anymore. But this one, is one I saw later on. So this is just a more of a exposure of this sign. So what you're going to do for next week is you're going to start off the same way we did with week. We have our pointer finger at the base of our palm, and you're going to slide it across and then curve forward. Next week. Next week. Next week. Next week. Now, the other one that I'm going to show you is more just of exposure you basically start from the opposite side and you slide across, go under and out next week. It's very weird. Yeah, next week. Next week. So you start with your pointer fingers, not pointer,
But
where
if
your
you watch at the end of every class, that's what Jillian does. She says, I'll see y'all next week. And
I do. I do.
yeah,
That's how I realized, oh, I didn't tell you about that one because someone was like, I caught when I did it. I said, I'll see you guys all next week. And then they were like, we just learned next week. And then I'm over here doing this. And they're like, what in the world? And I had to be like, okay, wait a minute. Let me explain. So yeah, this is just another one. And unfortunately, it has become a habit of that's the one I use more often now because it's just what I see at school. And so, and neither one is right or wrong. Neither one is better or worse. It's just kind of a preference. And that one, unfortunately, sometimes it just happens. You catch on to phrases or things. And that is just one where I really caught on. And so I will do next week more often than I do next week. But like I said, this is the one I would kind of start with. And I think the reason for it too is it keeps that same motion. So it helps kind of keep in your mind what exactly it means. Whereas with this one, like you're curling, you're going opposite, you're going under, like it's a very different. It changes up the week sign a bit. Okay. Now for next month and last month. For next month, you're going to start the same way we did for months. So you have the pointer finger, turn it, and you're going to go behind again and then go out next month, next month, next month, next month, next month. Okay. Then we have last month. So for last month, same position you're going to do. So month, and then you go back last month, last month. Typically, you want to kind of keep it. I always leave it this way because this is where my right hand is. But every time I'm always worried I'm gonna like scratch myself with my nail because that is a thing that you can do, especially if you ever have long nails. Please be careful with your signs. You can really do some damage to your face and your chin. I've done it before where I really scratched my chin real bad with my nails. It was not a fun moment. So I've been trying to do more where I keep it this way, like away from my face, where I'm not possibly going to do some damage. But yes, so last month. Okay. Then we have our next year, last year. So this one is going to be slightly different. We're not going to do the full year motion. What you basically do for next year is you're going to have your two fists. You're going to tap and then make a one. Next year, next year, next year, next year, next year. And I did want to add it here because it wouldn't have made sense if I added it the other time. For yearly or annually, it's that motion repeatedly. So it's that next year, but it's that motion of it. So yearly. Okay. Then for last year, there are two ways you can do it. One is you do the same thing where you tap and go back last year, last year, last year. And then the other one I've started to see a little bit more is last year, where I have like my dominant resting on top of my non-dominant and I'm pointing back last year, last year. Okay. But either one, last year, either one does work. Okay. All right. Let's go back through those. So we had our month sign. So month, month. Then we had year, year. Then we had next week, next week, next week. Then we had last week, last week. Sorry, I got lazy on that one. That's what this was. This was me getting lazy instead of doing it more flat and like nice. I just was like last week. Last week. Then we had next month, next month, next month, next month, or and last month, last month, last month. Okay. Then we had next year, next year, next year, next year. Then we had yearly, yearly. And then last year or last year. Okay. All right. How are we feeling with our time signs? Feeling good? Feeling, oh, I know time can be one of those where it can get to you. They can get kind of confusing. That's why I always say think of a timeline. I promise. Once you get that timeline, that helps a lot. It definitely helps. Okay. All right, let's see. I was seeing if there's any others. I think we're good. So what we're going to move on to now is our family signs. And so for our family signs, I'm trying to. No, where's my list? It's two separate lists. That's why I'm trying to find the other one, make sure I have that. There we go. Perfect. All right. So for our family signs, the first one we're going to start with is the sign for family itself, which I do think My classes are blending together. I could be wrong, but I do feel like we talked about it a little bit, the sign of the motion for family, because I was talking about how, yes, no, we did talk about this. Because I was talking about ASL versus more English based and how the certain signs for like group and team and class are that general shape motion, but some of them I typically do put the letters on that makes it more English, but it does help kind of identify better. And I think I had used the example with also family because the sign for family, yeah, is the two F's and it does the same shape, same motion. Family. And this one does keep on. So even though it's the F's, I do see this one used way like always for family. I've not seen family, I've seen just family. Okay. So the first thing we're going to start off with is mom. So mom is going to be a five. It's going to be with your thumb on your chin. Mom. Okay. Sometimes, I'm not sometimes. You can tap like mom, mom, or you can just be one time mom. Either way works. I've not really seen there be a difference. Sometimes I've noticed, especially like sometimes my students like to jokingly call me mom, so they will just be like this, and they'll do the tap, and it almost makes me think of like when you have a younger when you have a child who likes to go mom, 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 mom nonstop. And so I always think like that's this in ASL. It's just the constant mom, 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 get my attention, get your attention kind of deal. And so I always think about that with the rapid tap. So it's just kind of more of emotion with it. I typically will do one time unless I'm trying to get attention, like trying to get my mom's attention, which it does not do any help. Okay, my mom doesn't know ASL, but I still will sometimes be like this, especially if I'm eating and I can't voice to her. I'm like, you don't know what that is. I just look like a silly person to you, don't I? Okay. The next one is then going to be dad. So dad is going to be the same thing, but on your head. Yep. Or on your forehead. So dad. All right. Then for parents, it's going to be just mom and dad, or dad and mom, whichever way. Mom, dad, mom, whichever. You do both together. Okay. I will add this here because I have, not in these classes, but I have seen there's a very old sign for parents where it's the P, it's in its parents. Very, very old because it's the P and it's got that more English base with it. I do not see that often. I just saw it like, I think I saw it one time and I was like, oh, and I knew what they were saying. I immediately understood because parents with the P, parents, but I was like, you know, this is not a bad problem. But I just like to throw that out there just in case you guys ever do come across maybe an older deaf person who does like parents with the P's. That still can mean parents. It's just an older sign of it. Okay. The next one we're going to do is we're going to do boy and girl because that will lead into our son and daughters. Okay. So the first one we're going to do for boy, do is boy. Gosh, my goodness, you would think with just being a week away from school, I would like my English would get better, but it's just not happening. For boy, you're going to pretend like you have a baseball cap, basically. Boy, boy. Okay, so boy. And then for girl, you're going to have your thumb and you're going to slide it down your jaw. Girl, girl. Okay. So we have our boy and we have our girl. So then what you're going to do is you'll add the sign for baby. And the sign for baby is just what you would think, baby, baby. Now this is more larger of emotion. You can't really see my arms. I'm a lot closer up to my computer than I normally am, so it's very awkward trying to figure out how to position myself. But that is the more like, I guess, formal way you say baby. You can always just kind of do the one arm like this, like you're holding it, baby. Especially when you're talking about a son or daughter. So for son, what you do is you do boy and you bring it down to baby. Son, son, son. Okay. And then for daughter, it's going to be the same thing, but just now with girl. Daughter, daughter, daughter. Okay. And then let's see, where was I going? There's something else I wanted to not forget. Man and woman. That's what it was. I was on my top. I saw it on the top and I went, I already missed this again because I always miss man and woman for some reason. So for man and woman, It's basically just the same sign for mom and dad, but you add this sign with it. So for woman, it's going to be you're going to start basically with your mom sign and then bring it to your chest. Woman. Okay? Man, same thing. But from our head to your chest, man. Some people do use where they'll have the A and then they open up. Man, woman. I have seen that. But this I've also seen as well. I've seen both kind of equally, so I think it's either one's kind of a preference again. But just in case if you ever saw them do that, they are still talking about a woman. Okay, let's see. All right. If you were talking, goodness. Next one we're going to do is the sign for children. So the sign for children is children. So it's like you're patting all their heads. Children. Even if you only have like one kid or like two kids, you still pat all the heads. Children. Children. And then the next one we have is the sign for kids. So the sign for kids is you basically make your rock and roll sign and you're going to bring your pointer finger under your nose. Kids. 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 Okay. The next one we have is sister. So for sister, you're going to have your dominant in this L. It's the sideways L shape. And I always say your non-dominant is too, but I've realized I need to explain because I always do this naturally and I realize that's not clear. You have your pointer finger basically. It's just basically a pointer finger, sideways pointer finger. You're going to take your dominant with the thumb up, bring it to your chin, okay? And then you're going to bring it down on top of on top of your non-dominant. Sister. Sister. It is hard to see. Sister. Sister. Okay? Sister. And then for brother is the exact same thing, but just from your forehead. Brother. 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 I just realized I don't think I explained this. I'm pretty sure y'all have caught on. But anything that has to do with being with male is going to be up here around your head. Anything that's female is down here. I realized I was like, I didn't actually expressly say that. I feel like everyone's caught on, but I'm just going to add that there. All right. Then our next one is aunt and uncle, which you're going to do basically with your letters. So A for aunt, 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 and you do have it kind of closer to your chin, aunt, and then uncle is a U, uncle. Okay. And then we have cousins. So for cousins, it just depends on if you want to, well, okay, there's boy cousin, girl cousin, and then there's just the gender neutral cousin. Depending on if it's not really too important, you're talking about your cousin, or can even talk about multiple cousins, but gender is not a big thing. And so with that, it just depends on the placement. So you have the C. If it's a boy cousin, it's just up here by your head, kind of like where uncle was. If it's a girl cousin, it'll be down here. If it is a cousin that it's just the conversation is just about a cousin, it does not really matter if it's boy or girl, or if you're talking about multiples, you do cousins here with like your ear in the middle. I do see this one typically more often, just because it's not always like when you're having a like a passing comment. Oh yeah, my cousin's experienced that or something like that, and it's not really too key or important about talking about a male, female cousin. It's just either one. I do see this one more often. But then when they're talking like specific cousins, they'll do like boy cousin or girl cousin. Okay. I have three more left for family, then we're going to review them. I know we went kind of fast with these a bit. The next one I have is grandma. So for grandma, you're going to have that five again. Yeah. And see, and that's why we moved fast because someone is already caught on and probably seen it. I've watched you. I've caught you. You've signed it a few times ahead of me. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to roll it now. So grandma, you're going to bounce it out like you said, grandma, grandma. And then the same thing for grandpa, grandpa, grandpa. Okay. The last one I wanted to show was twins. So for twins, you're going to have the number two basically. You're going to start on the opposite corner of your mouth and you're going to slide down and then come to the other side. Twins, twins, twins. And we always add this here because I have twin siblings. So whenever I'm always listing my family out, which we will get into, I typically always say how they're twins, and that's why it always comes up in conversation. Okay. So let's go through all our signs. I know it was a lot, but let's go through all of those. And then what we'll do after that is we'll work on how you would list your family and then finish off with our WH question words. I think we can make it. All right. So the first time we had was family. So family. Then we had mom, dad. Then what was it after that? Parents, mom and dad, parents. We had boy, boy, girl. We had son. Well, we had baby. Sorry, baby, baby. Then we had son, daughter. We had children, children, children. We had kids, kids. And I realized we've again forgotten man and woman, man, woman. I love that I cannot for the life of me always recall, make sure to remember these. Then we had sister, 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 and then brother, 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 and then aunt, aunt, uncle, uncle, cousins, cousins. And it can either be girl cousin or boy cousin. And then we had grandma, 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 and then grandpa, grandpa, and then twins, twins, twins. Okay? All right. So now, if you were to list out your family, what is very important when you are listing your family is that once you've kind of put them in a place, you want to keep them in that spot. And so I typically do, and this is not a required, it's just kind of how your again preference. I typically go kind of in alphabetical, in age order, especially when I'm talking about my siblings and myself. I always go in who's the oldest, middle, and then the youngest. So for me, I do luckily have five family members. So I keep up the five. So when I would say my family, I would then go five and I would turn it. When you turn sideways, this is how you list something. This is how you're telling them you're about to list things. And that's for anything. So if you're saying, well, you got to do me what I got to do today, they do the same thing. And with any number less than, well, even if you had, let's say you had eight, okay? Eight or six. Yes, let's do six. If
Sorry,
you have
does it matter which one we use for the dominant or non-dominant for the list?
non-dominant, thank you. Yes, you do want to have your non-dominant because your dominant is going to be signing everything. So your dominant is going to be telling you who it is. Thank you for that. I did not even like register that. I was just like, yeah, we're going to do this. But if you have family members or things that you're adding to your list that's more than five, you would show this number and then still open up to the five. Okay, that's how you show that you're still going to start it off. So for my family, I do five, turn it sideways, and then you point. So this one I always say is my dad, then mom, then me, because I'm the oldest. And then I typically for here, as I'll point to both of them and I'll go twins. So I show like they're the twins of the family. And then I'll say like my sister, my sister. You can do where it's like sister. It's like you're still make that shape of the sister, but it's to your pointer finger. Sister. It's weird. Sister and then brother. Okay? So that's how I would identify. And the reason it's important where you keep them where you put them is because if I was talking about well, my family, we go on a vacation, we went to do da 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 da, I would list out who was involved. So my family, I would say all of them. And then if I was talking about what we were doing, I'd be like, can point instead of having to say my sister, da 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 da. I can just be like, she went here. Especially when you're talking about like for me, it is just I have one brother, one sister. But like for Miss Katie, she's got three daughters. So that can get kind of confusing fast if you're saying my daughter, and they're like, well, which one? You could be like, my daughter, daughter, this one did blah 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 blah. It helps you kind of keep pace of which child is where or which person you're talking about. So that's why it's important where you keep them where they're at. Okay. excuse me, if you have more than five, I do this where I will just go to the next one. So six. So I'd be like me, husband. Oh my gosh, I didn't do husband and wife. I always forget those two every time. No, never stop with that. We're gonna pause real quick on our list because I do think it's important to know husband and
Here's the
wife.
problem. There are too many. Like we got husband, we got wife, we got mom, we got dad. It's like, oh, okay.
Problem for me is that I always still think I'm like the same of my main family. Like because I'm not married yet, and even if I was, I would have, he would be put in here. He would be put somewhere. I'd be like pointing to me and then go husband. Like he wouldn't be in the five yet. I don't have that kind of family where I'm the mom of the family. That's not there yet. So I'm still like, oh yeah, just my family, my parents, my siblings. So I always forget husband and wife because of that. Let me show you real quick husband and wife because I do think that is important one to have. There are two ways you can do it again. One of them is just, it's kind of a preference again. So the first one is going to be for wife. You're going to have your non-dominant, a five, open five kind of deal. Your dominant is going to have a five on your chin, and then you bring them together. Wife, wife. Okay. Then the same thing for husband, but with your forehead. Husband, husband, husband. Now, the other way you can do it is with a pointer finger. So you start with the pointer finger here, and then you open it up to hands. Wife, wife, or husband, husband, husband. Okay. I just think about it saying like what if it's around your chin, your wife, and then you're holding hands because you got married, you're a couple. Or then up here with the male, and then again, married a couple. With the pointer finger and the open hand. That is a very interesting conversation I've had with multiple different people, and I have not gotten the same consensus at all just yet on the sign which is used for wife, husband, and wife versus mainly husband, and what is used for believe. Because believe is basically the same thing, believe or believe. It's either one. So I typically, what I do is I've kind of assigned one to be my sign for belief and one to be the sign for husband. So for like belief, I do belief. I do pointer finger up. And the reason I do that is because like I'm pointing, in my mind, I like to think of this as like I'm pointing up, I'm thinking up here, something I think about, versus husband. Okay. But I have seen some people who do believe husband, with this being like a person and then married to them. So it's just kind of one where I've seen it flip-flops. I mean, I genuinely keep asking, like, I'll ask a different person every time. I'm like, how would you sign this? And they'll say this and this, and I go, okay, great. I'll ask someone else, how do you sign this? And they'll do the complete opposite. I'm like, okay, so it's just kind of a preference. But I do want to just give you that tidbit. So if someone's ever like, when you're saying like husband or husband, and they're like, trying to figure it out, give it a minute. The context should help them pick it up, which one you were using. So, okay. Now that we now know a husband and wife, which I did backwards, I know I did, we are now going to move on to our family. So if you were going to talk about your family, again, I'd be like me, then husband, husband. I know I keep doing the pointers because I'm flipping it on me again. Husband, and then these I would point to children, my kids. And then I would say whichever one. Daughter, 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 kind of deal. So you'd point to each daughter, okay? If I had six, we're gonna do Miss Katie. So I would open up, I'd be like me, my husband, daughter, 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 son. So I would turn it to show that sixth one. And that you can keep on. Some people do where they'll add the one here and then they'll like flip hands. It looks confusing to me. I've seen that before, and it really just throws you because this is what you've been signing, and here's your list, and now you've turned. So I do kind of prefer to do it where I just keep going with the numbers here. I think it kind of keeps it easier, but that's also just my preference. So I know the listing was a bit wonky. That just typically does come with practice and time. And as long as you make this motion of turning it sideways, you should be good. Then you can kind of list it out. All right. Okay. We have about 15 minutes left. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do our WH question words, just get a few in there, just so we have that chance. So for before we start, I do want to remind and mention again, because I think we talked about it. If I'm not, I want to go in depth here then. Is when you're asking a question in ASL, there are a couple things that go with the grammar structure of the sentence. And one of the main things is that your WH question word is always going to come at the end of your sentence. Okay. And so typically how in like English we have it at the very beginning, ASL is going to be right at the end. And the reason for that is because that's going to tell the person you're talking to what exactly you're looking for in an answer back. Because if you think about it, especially with it being in when you're signing a long thing and you're trying to ask someone, well, the party that you went to, when is it? Like, or the party that you're going to, when is it? Or where is it? If you said the part, like, where's the party you're going to, blah, blah, blah. It can get confusing which one you're asking again because it's already been at the beginning and it almost gets forgotten sometimes. So I said because, but forgotten. So it is really important to have it at the end because that just helps that specifically you're asking about when is it or where is it or what is it for? Like what is the party? That sort of thing. It helps kind of really keep what you're specifically asking for. Okay. So that's one of it. The next one is your eyebrows. Your eyebrows are very important in questions. So, when you're asking a WH question word that needs an answer back, not a yes or no, but it needs an answer back, it is important your eyebrows go down. Okay? Now, with this, I know that's kind of like an odd concept, I think, especially for when we're used to eyebrows being down means we're mad, we're angry, we're pouty. When you're asking a WH question word, it really does, like you see it makes sense. And that's basically showing that you are asking them a question, like you are asking for some kind of answer. Okay? So eyebrows down for any sort of WH question words. Eyebrows up is a yes or no question. Okay? So if you were to say, which I know we haven't really signed these yet, but if you were going to say, like, oh, do you like this? You like, your eyebrows would be up. Okay? Like. And the reason you don't want it flat is because, like, this looks more like you're making a statement. Like, that's, like, our eyebrows are almost our punctuation marks at the end. So when our eyebrows are flat, that's like almost adding our period at the end of a sentence versus being up or down gives us our questions. Shows that it is a question mark, basically. Okay? So those are our main three that I always like to emphasize, basically. All right. So the first one we're going to do is the sign for what. So the sign for what is you're going to have two fives. They're going to be slightly curled and up, and you go, what, 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 what. Okay? What. Then we're going to do who. So who is going to be an L. You're going to have your thumb on your chin. And then you can go flat, like a straight flat, or you can curl. I typically do the curl. Who, 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 who. And my favorite thing with the who question is that I love that this little purse, like the little pursed ooh, who, shows up pretty much every time I've seen anyone sign this who. Even someone who is profoundly deaf and has not really ever heard any sort of like speech, phonics, anything like that, they will still do the ooh sound, ooh sound. It just kind of keeps on with that. I think it's very cool. Ooh, ooh. Okay. For then where, you can have a pointer finger slightly bent. It's not a full X, but it's slightly bent. And you're going to go back and forth. Where, where, where. All right. Then we have when. So when is going to be two pointer fingers. Your dominant is going to tap and go in a circle and come back. When, 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 when. Okay. And then our final one, why. Y has three different ways you can sign it. And it again is just more of a preference on which one you would prefer. So for the first Y, we're going to do is going to be, you're going to start with the sign for no, like I know, not no, but no, which is no. This is no. Okay. So you're going to start here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull your hand back and it's going to make, I always do that, the Y sound. I always do the I love you, the Y, but it's more of the thumb, you're going to make the Y shape. Y, 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 Y. Okay. The other way you can do it is you're going to have your middle finger. You have it on the side of your head. Again, the same concept of the no. And then you're going to just pull the middle finger. Y, 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 Y. Okay. Then the final way is that middle finger's right here. It's not touching, but it's near. And you just bounce it. Y, 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 Y. So this one's a very, very obviously very shorthand. You can see the progression of being very formal, fancy into the full Y to the just the little one, like the one finger bending for it to where it's just bounce. Don't even move the arm. I kind of change it up depending if I'm asking a simple like I'm moving the conversation moving faster. I do typically do this, the Y. But if I'm having a more formal conversation, I will do more the Y, Y kind of deal. I kind of change it up a bit. But again, that's just more of a preference. So either one works. All right. So then let's see. Let's go back and do our five real quick. And then I'll show you how you can do how and how much. All right. So we had our what, what. We had our who, or who. Either way works. Who. We had our where, where. And then we had our when, when. And then why. Why, or why, why. Okay, so now for our how. With how, there's kind of two ways you do it. The actual sign for how is you have two thumbs, they're together, and you go how. You just bounce in. It's my dominant hand, but it can be your non-dominant. Either one. Or non-dominant, your right hand. Sorry, it's either hand. I typically do my dominant for this one. How. Okay. So this is just the general how sign. Now, sometimes when you're signing and applying it in actual sentence, instead of just bouncing it multiple times, you do a one-time motion. How? How? Okay? How? So, for example, for this one is how are you, which this one doesn't actually follow the ASL sentence structure where we'll have it at the end. You typically start with the how. So you go how you. How you. How are you? How you? How you? And I do think the reason why that one doesn't follow that end one is because it's very smooth. Because if you were doing you how, like it's almost easier to smoothly transition from how to you. And it's not like you're asking, how are you doing with all of this going on and everything that's happening? You're just asking a simple, how are you? How are you? And so it can do that shorter sentence where they're going to know what you're saying. Like this is almost just its own sign basically. How are you? How are you? Okay? But if I was going to say that building finished how? Like I would do how at the end. How? How? How was that made? How was this built? How? Okay? For how much, what you would do is you would do two S's basically. They're palm up and you go how much? How much? How much? How much? Okay, how much? This is also how many. How much? How many? For this one, I don't always use for money as much. I use more of just like I'll make the actual like a flat hand and I tap it for how much. Like well, let me sign it to myself. Hold on. I have to think because I said it and then I was like, wait a minute, I did add it when I said it. And I was like, hold on, how do I actually sign that? Okay, so I do that. I do use it, but I use it very small and then I tap. My bad. I knew I was going to catch myself doing something. So when I do how much for something, like I was pretending to sign like that candy, like how much is it? Um, I do how much money? How much money? How much? How much? So it's like a smaller how much. So I'm not, it's like, and then the added money sign. That's how I would do with money. Um, and the reason I typically would do that is because if you do just how much, it could also mean like you're asking how many, like how many can I get? It can get a little confusing. So that's why I like to add the money. Is like how much does it cost basically. All right. Okay. I think that is it. We've gone through a lot this class. It's going to be a lot on this, I can already tell. But are there any questions you guys have or anything you would like us to go back over? Excuse me, that we did, or any questions that you have, not having to be just on time and family, but any other kind of questions that you guys can think of? They've updated Zoom and changed the background color instead of white, it is black. That threw me off when I opened up chat because I realized I hadn't opened up chat at all this time, and I was like, this is new. If you guys do not have any questions you can think of, which totally fine. I mean, there's only two of y'all, so um, if not, we can kind of finish early because I mean it's got 5 minutes left. But Miss Katie, did you have something you were gonna say?
Nope.
Oh, I saw you unmuted, and I was like, oh, I just interrupted this, didn't
No. Mm-mm.
I? So I guess we'll just end it here. If you do guys ever think of any questions that you guys have, just feel free to either you can save them for next week, or you can already email them to Miss Katie, and then she
Hmm.
will let me know, and we will keep up with that until the next class.
Hmm.
Next week's class is going to be, let's see,
Okay, we did family. I
yeah.
think we had talked about doing occupations and places together,
Hmm.
and then we can keep working on the WH question words with those. Um, but I wrote it up at the beginning of the session. I'll double check.
Yeah, because like I knew we had a good. It's always whenever we have like we chunk up things that it throws us off our class every
I
time.
know.
And I'm like,
I
wait,
think we had talked about doing occupations right after family signs.
yes.
So we would
And
do
I'm
occupations and people, and then come.
places adding on because it's with jobs and things like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So definitely, I think if we do occupations and jobs, I mean jobs, occupations and places, and then I just thought of some. I was gonna say we could also add actually sports in there
Oh
because
yeah, that'd be good.
athletes,
Because I was gonna say, I don't think we need people. I think what I'm talking about is occupations, actually,
yeah,
when I'm saying people. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So, but I guess that I think we can do that. That'll be a
yeah.
good chunk too. So,
Mm-hmm.
alrighty. Well,
Makes
I
sense.
hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week. And if y'all are on your spring break, enjoy it. I am on mine and I'm enjoying it. And I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.